Why do we make assumptions and how can we stop? Let's see if we can answer those questions with today's featured book. Plus, I have 3 ways to help you stop making assumptions. Hi there, and welcome to the Booksters Club, where we find daily inspiration from the books you love. Today's featured book is The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz, and today's inspirational thought comes to us on page number 69. It says, "We make the assumption that everyone sees life the way we do. We assume that others think the way we think, feel the way we feel, judge the way we judge, and abuse the way we abuse. This is the biggest assumption that humans make. And this is why we have a fear of being ourselves around others, because we think everyone else will judge us, victimize us, abuse us, and blame us as we do ourselves. So even before others have a chance to reject us, we have already rejected ourselves. That is the way the human mind works." This is how we create our reality in other people. I'm always saying how we're a reflection of the outside world. When we treat ourselves a certain way, that's what gets reflected back to us in other people. And the way that we make assumptions about ourselves, well, we think that other people are going to make the same assumptions about us. We're making assumptions about assumptions about assumptions. The brain is designed to make assumptions. It's constantly searching for patterns. In fact, cognitive scientists call this mental models, and that's what makes the brain a more efficient machine. The mind jumps to conclusions to resolve the thoughts or actions that someone has done by always looking at it in terms of black and white. And the mind is constantly looking at polar opposites. Well, if this person did this, then that must mean that. An example would be, if he did this, then it must mean he doesn't like me. And the brain really only has one fact here, and that was that this is what that person did. And it wants to jump to conclusions and think in opposites and black and white terms, because that's how it's able to come up with a story. And that's really what an assumption is. It's just the story and the filler of in-between facts. So you have what that person did, and your mind is using past data and information to come up with a resolution that it means he doesn't like you, which is not true, or could be true, but you don't know that. It's an assumption. Shortcuts that the brain takes is actually a very useful tool that we use all of the time. For example, if you're driving to work, your mind is using shortcuts because it's not consciously thinking of every single thing that needs to be done on the way to work. That's why you can go to work and think, man, did I stop at that stop sign? I don't even remember. And yet you make it to work every day safely. You're kind of on autopilot. That is the main function of mental models, is that your brain is just trying to become more efficient. However, it's not really the most helpful thing when it comes to something that is as complex as human emotion. Now that we know that the brain makes shortcuts in certain areas and that that's okay, but that it can also make shortcuts in others, and we don't want that to happen, I have 3 tips that you can use to help you stop making assumptions. Number 1, get comfortable with not having the answers. That is the main source of making assumptions, is that when you don't have the answers, assumptions are just trying to fill in those gaps. So you're going to have to be okay with really not knowing why someone did something and just let it go. Number 2, ask for the truth. So if you have to know exactly why somebody did something a certain way, well, you should ask them. It's not fair to them to make an assumption of why they did something a certain way and then treat them a certain way based on what you just assumed. You then need to take the uncomfortable stance of then asking that person exactly, why did you do what you did? Number 3, focus on yourself. So sometimes you're not going to be able to get the truth from someone, or you're not going to be able to get answers to why someone did what they did. And sometimes you're not going to get the truth, meaning you're going to ask for it and they're going to tell you something else. But hey, look, when that happens, you still always, regardless of whether or not you get the truth or not, have to focus on yourself. You must live in facts, realities, and then move from there. So if you're in a situation where you've said, for example, are you okay? And someone says, yep. And you're like, oh, that doesn't feel like you really meant it. Look, don't make any assumptions. You asked. They said they're okay. move forward with the rest of your day as if that person was okay, because that's really all you can do. When we start trying to figure out what other people are thinking or feeling or try to be mind readers, which we're not, then that's when things get really, sticky, and we got all involved in their nonsense and we're like walking on eggshells around them. Just stop all of that. Ask for the truth. If you get it, great. If you don't, focus on yourself. Assumptions are such an interesting thing that we do as human beings. I mean, we all do it, but it gets us into such a pickle. Let me know in the comments if you've ever made a really bad assumption and it got you into a really funny situation. I love hearing stories like that. Also, if you had a different take on this part of the book, a different part in this book, or a different book entirely that you think should be featured here on the Booksters Club, I would also like to hear about that in the comment section. Thank you so much for clicking that like button if you like this video, and do subscribe and ring the bell if you're new, because I post new videos just like this one every single day. See you tomorrow, Booksters. Hoping to answer those questions. Let's see if we can answer those questions. Okay. So why do we make assumptions? So, okay. The brain is designed to make assumptions. Yep, conclusions. So the mind jumps to conclusions to resolve the thoughts or actions someone else has done by looking at it in black and white terms. Almost said so. The mind. That's what he did. Oh, it only has one solid fact. Okay, no. So then it must mean if he did that, yeah. So assumptions, no. That's how you can get to a stop sign, and then, no, you don't roll through stops. Being offended by others as well. I don't know if I like that. I don't know. And emotions. No. People and complex relationships, no. The way, okay. Number two, you can ask for the truth. So, if you absolutely have to know, that's what it was. If you have to know about myself, it's when you're, what is it? It's like right here on the tip of my tongue. I'll do it. I'm guilty of it too. No. I am guilty of it, but let's not say that. Assumptions are such an interesting thing. It's something that I just hit the mic.